Good evening. It's July 1st, 2024, and I am back because my previous video about the changes for buyers and sellers in real estate actually created a heck of a lot more questions. So I'm going to try to do my best to explain this because it's incredibly confusing to the general public about what the changes are going to be in real estate in 2024. We no longer can offer any kind of compensation or commission to a buyer's agent on the MLS. So if I'm listing a property for sale, if I'm helping a seller list a property for sale, we can no longer post what that commission is going to be. The reason for that is that with the new NAR settlement, the sellers are essentially going to have to pay the buyer's agent separately and directly versus what happens right now. So typically right now, the seller will say pay somewhere between 5 and 6%, maybe more, to the listing agent, say that's me. And then after the property closes, that's split, or at closing, it's split between the buyer's agent and the listing agent. That's how things have been since the 90s because of lots of lawsuits previously when it was done this other way that they're having us do it now. So now it's basically separated. So whenever a seller lists their house for sale, they're going to tell us, the listing agent, what they're willing to pay us, but then they're also going to spell out what they're willing to pay the buyer's agent. There are four options. They can, one, pay the buyer's agent a percentage and put that in the listing contract. Two, pay them a flat rate fee. Three, pay them nothing at all. Or four, negotiate commission as part of the contract or part of the offer. So what that does for buyers is buyers agents have to secure their commission with the buyer before they ever show any houses. So the buyers now may have to be responsible for their buyer's agent commission, their agent's commission, which is kind of scary for some people. So I'm going to explain to you how this works and how it can still be okay. You can still use a buyer's agent and get representation and not have to pay for it yourself. But these are really, really important to understand. Number one, right now, this form that you see on the screen, the exclusive buyer representation agreement, is going to basically be legally binding, of course, but is going to be required by law before you can see a house. You're going to have to sign this document before you can see a house. This is going to go into play in our MLS locally at the end, mid to the end of July. Nationally, it will absolutely be done by August 17th. So after August 17th, be mentally prepared that if you're buying a house in this market in 2024, you will have to sign this form before you can ever see a property. In this form, it is going to describe who your agent is, what brokerage they work for, basically that they're your designated agent for your transaction, and also what commission you're willing to pay them. This is the very, very important part. Here is where you're going to put the percentage or a flat rate fee or other. Now, does this mean that you specifically have to pay your agent? Not necessarily. It can be that the seller can still pay the commission. So if a seller is offering to pay the commission as part of their listing agreement to the buyer, your agent or your buyer's agent, your agent has to call up to the listing agent and say, hey, on every single one now, because it's no longer going to be listed on the MLS, are you offering, is your seller offering any commissions to buyer's agents? And they can say, yes, we're offering a percentage, which is one option. Two, yes, we're offering a flat rate fee. Three, nope, they can't offer anything at all. Or four, they're willing to negotiate your commission. So the buyers don't necessarily have to pay the commission. But in this form, in the additional terms and conditions, if a buyer cannot afford to pay for the commission, then they will have to agree with the buyer's agent that they will only look at houses where the seller is willing to pay their commission. There's another way you can do this. You can also split it. So if you're a buyer and you can afford to pay some, say you can afford to pay 1%. You can put in the additional terms and conditions that you're willing to pay up to 1% of the agent's commission. But the total commission in this blank could be 3%, meaning that the seller could pay the other portion. So it can actually be split. I know this is incredibly confusing, incredibly. So I would highly recommend that you just lean on your real estate professionals for this part. Let them help